I knew records would never die. I trusted my ears, and I knew records would never die. But what I didn't see coming was the CD dying like it did. And I didn't see the vinyl getting to where it was, but I knew it would never die. That's all I can say.
Welcome to the source for quality over quantity, class over mass, and boutique over big box. With roots in high tech and high fidelity, this is the place for home audio on another level. Forget what you know. It's time to do things audiophile style.
Hey, everybody, it's Chris Connaker, founder of Audiophile Style, and welcome to the Audiophile Style podcast. On today's show, I talk to the founder and CEO of Acoustic Sounds, Chad Kassem. Acoustic Sounds, based in Salina, Kansas, is an online retailer specializing in the highest quality vinyl albums, SACDs, reel-to-reel tapes, and vinyl reissues of some of the best music the world has ever known. Acoustic Sounds owns its own record pressing plant, vinyl reissue label, original production label, print shop, recording studio, and its own LP mastering business after it bought the mastering lab from the late Doug Sax. If you're a fan of Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, Nat King Cole, Norah Jones, and many others, the chances are very high that Acoustic Sounds has been involved in creating the absolute best sounding versions of these releases that you've ever heard. Equally as impressive as the quality of work done by Acoustic Sounds is Chad Kassem's reputation among people in not only the audiophile world, but the larger music industry as a whole. As you'll hear, it takes decades of relationship building to be entrusted with some of the most valuable pieces of musical art ever created. Chad's story is a classic American story. Having him on the show to tell the story in his typical unvarnished way was a real honor for me. Here's part one of my conversation with Acoustic Sounds founder and CEO, Chad Kassem. How you doing today, Chad?
Everything good, man. I can't complain.
Excellent, excellent. So before we jump into it, I want to say that I've been a fan of you and Acoustic Sounds since the late 90s. I first discovered Acoustic Sounds in a catalog that was included with my Martin Logan Request speakers I got from Audio King here in Minneapolis. I looked at the catalog and I was amazed to see that there were better versions of my favorite albums. It opened up a whole new world to me. So I have to thank you. I'm a huge fan.
Wow, that's how we had to advertise in them old days, huh?
Yeah, the print catalog came with my speakers. I was like, who is this company? And
I can remember getting some of my first catalogs, and I still have them. I mean, from other companies, and you would just look at the albums you wanted, and they were just seemed so. If it was a color catalog, it was so vivid. It seems like it. I mean, I look back at them now, and they don't look any more special than other catalogs. But at the time, you would just, those album covers just jumped off the page. I mean, it's the only way we had to find out about stuff. And
absolutely.
it's also interesting to know that, Martin Logan doing that. Hey, if it just got one new customer or somebody aware of us, or if it was your light bulb, kind of a light bulb moment, which I definitely have one of those, is very interesting. We did a giveaway with some Martin Logan speakers. I forgot how we did it. Just say if you sign up to Acoustic Sounds mailing list or something, and we gave a pair of, it's like $4,000 or $5,000 speakers when, back when $4,000 or $5,000 was $4,000 or $5,000.
Yes,
and
yes.
I remember calling the guy, and he was like, "Wow, I just can't believe it." I mean, like,
and another interesting thing about this too is when I bought the speakers, the guy goes, "So what are you going to listen to on these?" And I said, "Pink Floyd for sure. It's going to be fantastic." And he looked at me like I had an eyeball in the middle of my forehead. He's like, "Pink Floyd?" And you know what I probably did is I got the Acoustic Sounds catalog and found the best version of Dark Side of the Moon or something and ordered it, and it was even better. So it's all good.
That's surprising that an audiophile, like a hi-fi salesman, would be surprised at that answer. They'd be like, "Yeah, that's probably the most common thing. But
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
that's cool. That's cool. You remember that.
Oh, like it was yesterday, of course. And another thing too is I could I recently discovered your YouTube channel, and I could sit and watch you flip through records and just talk about the records all day. I had to catch myself like, "Oh my gosh, I've never heard of this Lightning Hopkins album." And Chad's talking about their stuff I never even heard of. So, I am very excited to have you on because you have so much information to cover. It's just really fun for me.
Well, I tell people, like, I'm like the book, and you and all of y'all are chapters in the book, because I mean, I find out about a lot of these records from my customers and I share it back to other customers. So, there's so many records made in the world, right, that we don't have time to listen to them all. And a lot of them suck, musically and sonically.
Yep,
So, if we can cut through the bullshit and tell each other about the killers, save us all a lot of time and a lot of money.
absolutely.
I don't have time to listen to them all. I mean, so you might go, "Hey, man, have you heard this album?" And I'm like, "No." A lot of times people come with the same suggestions. "Hey, why don't you reissue the Beatles?" "Oh, wow, I never thought of that one." Or, "Okay, no, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, Steely Dan." Some of these things may be a reality and become a reality, but I mean, we reissued, Wish You Were Here on SACD, and we're going to do Dark Side on SACD. So, a lot of these things that I didn't think would ever happen are happening. But anyway, so we all share our favorite records, and some of them I don't know about. I mean, I didn't know about Dream with Dean. Most of Dean Martin's albums are hokey and cheesy and kind of dated and got a lot of strings and arrangements and overproduced. When you finally hear his voice in a live to 2-track setting on a U47 microphone with like a jazz band accompanying him, you're like, dude, this guy's, I mean, he's a musician. I mean, he's great. And the sound.
Yeah.
And then like Tennessee Ernie Ford, I mean,
Yes.
these guys are great, man. And but they did music of the time. They did a lot of gospel. They did a lot of pop stuff that was kind of happening at the time. So they might have had, I mean, like the song 16 Tons is a classic, and that's not over the top produced. But a lot of his other records were, but then you find him doing blues songs, and you're going like, there's one, he might have had 50 records, 49 of them ain't going to cut it for me or my audience. The same with the Dean Martin. So I hadn't heard those records. I did listen to those artists trying to find something good by them. I might have listened to 10 Tennessee Ernie Fords, and none of them hit. 10 Dean Martins, none of them. So it was customers that told me about those. So now I share them with everybody, and then I have my own discoveries that I share as well.
Yeah, that Tennessee Ernie Ford, I had a friend tell me, "Do you like Tennessee Ernie Ford?" And I said, "Who is the guy?" He goes, "Just pick any albums you want and listen to them." And I listened to him like, "Ooh, not my style." And then he sent me a clip of a track, and it blew my mind. Completely different music, sounded fantastic. So yeah, you're like this hub of everybody tells you the good stuff, you share it with everybody else. It's just great. So I like to lay a little foundation for people before we get into some more stuff. Let's just cover a little bit about you. Where did you grow up?
I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana. That's Acadiana. That's where most of the Cajuns, if you've heard about the Cajuns.
Yeah.
So Lafayette, Louisiana is where I'm from. It's where the Cajuns are from. Everybody says, "Oh, Louisiana, New Orleans." Well, New Orleans is, of course, the home of jazz, and it's all about music, and it's a great place. And everybody goes there and loves it. But Lafayette is a whole different thing, which is just as fun. But there's more Zydeco music and Cajun music, and that's where that music came from. Blues, Zydeco, and Cajun. And what Zydeco really is a mixture of Cajun and blues or R&B. And it has the piano accordion and a rub board.
Sure.
Whereas the Cajun music might have a violin and the smaller, like triple note accordion. So some of it gets real close. Some artists play both and they mix it. But it was a style, the Zydeco came from this area. And so I'm real proud of where I'm from. It's a very unique place. There's no other place like it on earth. South Louisiana is the closest thing to another country that there is in America. I mean, there's a lot of French speaking still, that a lot of people's first language was French in the Cajun area.
Sure.
And I grew up with this. I didn't learn French. I mean, of course, I know some words, but it's a very unique place that it means a lot to me, and it also probably helped me in my love for music, because it's all about music there. Well, food and music and having a good time.
What's better than that,
Right.
Good food, good music.
Right.
That's what life's about.
And there's festivals all the time. A lot of times the weather, people will, it's hot and humid, and it rains a fair amount, but there's always festivals and there's always fun, and everybody over there gets together and has fun. I like Kansas where I live. There's so many good things about here that are better than Louisiana even, but people don't tend to want to have fun here and listen to music. It's just not the culture. Now it's windy and it's cold or it's very hot, so it doesn't really lend itself.
Seems a little more straight-laced than Louisiana,
Yeah. And that's why I had to move here. The bars, when I grew up, there were 24 hours.
Ah, sure.
Right. And it was 18, but all you had to do was be 12 to drink.
Yes, yeah.
So there's a lot of partying, man. And, some people can handle it and I couldn't. I didn't know when to go. If the bar didn't kick you out, I didn't know. I mean, sometimes I'd walk out the bar and it'd be daylight because some of them are set up to where you can't see.
Like a casino. They don't want you to see anything else.
Right. There's no clocks.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no clocks. And when you walk out and it's 12 o'clock noon and that hot, humid, I mean, you're like, it's a shock.
Yeah,
to say the
yeah.
least. But, I've been here for 36 years. I moved here in 1984. That's the year that CDs came out. Okay, so I've been going against the grain. Exactly when CDs came out is when I brought my record collection from Louisiana here. And I was just trying to replace my old records that, of course, went through a lot of parties, these records.
Yeah. So hold up there for a second, because we're gonna get into that for sure. When did you start listening to music?
Well, when you grow up in Lafayette, Louisiana, and same probably in New Orleans, Louisiana, you can't live there and not listen. And there's so much live music. These restaurants and bars I went to, they had people that were playing in there that had hit records. They were famous in Europe and on the radio, but they were just a bar band to us. We thought they were just a cover band.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't even really know. It's just, and you take it for granted.
Absolutely.
I mean, you would take it. Now I look back and I know a lot of them, and I know the hits they had and when they came out. And in fact, we just recorded one of them named Warren Storm. Well, John Fogerty loved swamp pop music, which is another genre that come out of Southwest Louisiana. And when we were recording Warren, we called John Fogerty, hey, you want to be on it? And he's like, he's on the first track. When John Fogerty did My Toot Toot, which is a Louisiana famous song, he went down there and did an MTV kind of type video with a crawfish boil and this guy, Warren Storm. So they become friends. And that's really Fogarty's, all of Creedence is trying to, it's his love for Louisiana music.
Yeah,
It's, I
yeah,
mean, Born on the Bayou,
exactly.
uh, Proud Mary.
Yeah. So you don't really have a time in your life where there wasn't a lot of music.
Right, right. There was, it was around, a lot of it, I have to admit, like we would go to these clubs, these all night clubs that they're dance halls. People dance in Louisiana. So the Zydeco, it makes you dance. So there's these big old cypress buildings, old houses or old general stores or something converted into bars, or they've been bars for years. And there's hundreds of people dancing and drinking. And some of them, one of them had cockfights in the other room. In fact, I seen an interview with Jimmy Vaughn and Kim Wilson. You can look it up on YouTube, where it was Johnny Carson or David Letterman. One of the guys said, or Jay Leno, where's the craziest place you ever played? And Kim Wilson says, Jay's in Cankton, Louisiana. And they said, well, why is that? He says, well, they're having cockfights in the other room while you're playing. And at the end, they make a gumbo with the loser.
Wow. Holy smokes. A different time, that's for sure.
Right. That shit went on wasn't that long ago they stopped that. But,
Wow.
well, I mean, it's been a while. But
Yeah, yeah. I get
this
it.
is what kind of place. But what I'm saying is we really weren't going there for the music. We were going to have a good time and party. And that the music just happened to be part of it. So there's so much of it that you don't really go to see it. You
Sure,
follow
sure.
me?
Yeah, yeah. It's just
You
part of life.
right. You're there and there's music. You're at a festival and there's music. And you're not, in fact, there's so much Zydeco. We never said, hey man, you want to go out tonight and see some Zydeco? We're just like, you want to go out tonight.
Sure, sure.
And so now, though, I had to leave Louisiana to understand just how important it is and how much. In fact, we made a map with all the Louisiana musicians on the map. I mean, it was a project. It was my idea, and I shared it with a guy. We kind of worked on it together, but he did most of the work researching because, I mean, it was just. But you have to leave to understand. And I learned way more about it now than I did then.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. I mean, that's how humans are, sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone, and there's a
well,
reason
that's
why there's a
exactly
song,
I mean, that's humans in the nutshell right there. I mean, in
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And it made me appreciate it. And now when I go to Louisiana, it's like, hey, let's go listen to some Zydeco. And it's funny, my old friends aren't quite, they're still the way I was because they never left. And it's so much of it that, I mean, they like it and they don't, anytime that there's so much of something, there's an abundance, but
Yeah. So, like, here in Minneapolis, growing up, people would always say, "Hey, Prince is having a party at Paisley Park. Let's go. It's after hours." And I'd be like, whatever. I'll see him next time." And now, obviously, you can't. You don't know what is there until
well,
you can't get it.
it's like the blues guys or any musician really that's getting older,
Mhm.
but even younger that dying. So um, that's why I was doing the blues concerts because those guys were already older. I mean, it's inevitable. Somebody's 80 years old and 90 years old. I mean, how much longer do they have? So we recorded a lot of these guys because of this, but we still didn't know how right we were. I mean, I
Yeah.
wish I was wrong, but it happened. There's hardly any masters of the blues left. And like you said, even Prince, it goes back to you don't know it, you don't appreciate what you have till it's gone. It's like, oh yeah, we'll catch him next time.
Yes.
Um, in
Until you
fact,
won't.
people are asking me to do more of the blues concert, and I think the best thing we did was stop because a lot of people think, well, I'll get it the next time.
Mhm.
See, now there ain't no, and they're all like, we want, we want, we want. But I had an idea. At some point, we're going to do it again. But I'm going to change the emphasis. It's going to be an Acoustic Sounds party a vinyl record show with a concert, not a concert with a record show.
Sure,
You
sure.
follow me?
Absolutely. That'd be
I'm
fantastic.
just going to rebrand it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guarantee you that idea, I mean, it's just,
I think it's sold out just by thinking of it.
I've got it all thought out, but I just don't have the time, man. But I got to do it. Invite all of y'all. Like I said, I grew up on it. I learned a lot, but it was really just, I don't know the word, osmosis. I mean, it just happened. It wasn't because, I mean, my family,
So it wasn't like your parents were listening to music in the house all the time, so that's how you picked it up. It was just a cultural thing.
right, yeah, it wasn't, yeah, that's not what happened. People ask me if I play an instrument all the time. I got a funny response, but I don't know if,
So what were you listening to music on, say, at home? Did you have a radio, a stereo? What kind of audio system?
good one. So my parents had a console stereo. And that thing, I swear, I mean, you see them all over all the time, but they're
Yeah.
usually a certain size,
It's a
and
piece
a
of furniture.
certain weight. Their furniture, but the one they had, I swear to God, it was a monster, man. And it was solid wood thick. I mean, it was longer, prettier, more. I mean, it was deluxe. We had hamsters as a child, and it would get in the speaker. We'd find sunflower seeds in there, and that's when I discovered there were Altex in there. This thing had Gerard or however you want to pronounce it in there. Beautiful piece of furniture, huge, like almost twice as big or twice as heavy as most of the ones you see.
Wow.
And beautiful, like you shut the speakers. They had a thing where you could shut them off, and it just was like one big piece of wood.
Like the wooden drapes.
Yeah. My mother bought like a Pioneer. I think it was a 1250, which I just bought one the other day. I mean, they're badass. We had a lot of parties at my house, and it got stolen not quite long after we got it. But we put that with separates in the same room, and we're like, well, the new thing, that old console, that's a grandpa's system, right? That's kind of how we thought of it. And the new system was badass. I forgot what else it had, but it was, if it wasn't the Pioneer 1250, it was the one right below it, because it was that same year, it was that same look. That's all I can remember. And it was badass, and it cranked. Somebody stole it. We had parties, man. We were bad, you know what I mean? Somebody stole it. But like we were talking about how you have to appreciate something else has to happen. Well, I didn't appreciate that old console. We were playing the Pioneer, and I said, well, let's play. Dude, them Altex cranked, man.
Yes, yes.
I mean, we're like, you know what? Damn. So we had the console, we had that Pioneer, but the system I bought when I was about 15 was a Marantz 2270, an AR turntable, and Electro Voice speakers. And so I had to buy everything again that I had.
Sure.
2270. Thank God I bought it when I did, because they're going for like $1,000 now. And
Yep.
I love it. I love the gain on a 2270. It don't start kicking until it's about at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
I don't like the gain on the Pioneers or the ones that it's to me the gain on a lot of stereos is like a CD. You go 1, 2, 3, and it's too loud already.
Yes.
Why do you have a volume knob? I like.
Yeah, I'm with you. They're weighted heavily, on the lower numbers. I want 50% to be right at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I know use the whole thing, but
why did God invent a volume knob? You know what I'm saying?
yes, exactly.
Why? To go like this, or just stop at 3? I mean, so that Marantz has got that gain and it just keeps getting better. You know what I mean? At 1, 2, that's when you got to be over 12 to. And I love that about the Marantz.
And a volume knob that felt good too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what about the radio, the gyro?
Oh, yes. The feel of spinning that through the stations.
Oh man,
Nothing like that.
the Marantz. So
Yeah.
I had to buy one of those, and I had to buy the same AR. I don't have the Electro Voice speakers, but and that's what I had at 15. And I mean,
So when you bought that system at 15, was that a system for, say, your room or something that the whole family listened to?
no, that was my room. The other systems were we had a pool room, a billiard room with that console, and then for some reason I don't know why my mother decided to buy a system for that room, and it didn't last long. So I had parties, people would come in there and like, wow, and we were all bad, we were. I mean, I don't get upset about it. I mean, I'm not. We were all kind of, we were bad. That's
Yeah, yeah. I get it. I get it. I wish some of those console stereos would come back because listening to music with your family and your friends in the same room is a vastly different experience than me sitting in my listening chair and just, have the music blast at me.
it's funny you mentioned that. One of our best customers died a few years ago, and he called me 14 months before he died. And he says, Chad, he says, listen, I have 30,000 records. A lot of them I bought from you. Come down here. I'm going to make you a hell of a deal. He said, there's just a couple of rules or whatever, conditions.
Sure.
No day laborers in my house. You got to take them all, and you can't cherry pick.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, okay, well, that's easy. I thought, okay, I thought. Usually, when somebody says they have 30,000 records, almost always that means 3,000.
Yep, yep.
I mean, really, almost always. He said he had 30. He had 50.
Ooh, wow.
Okay, he had a nice house, older house, nice. On one floor, thank God there wasn't no basement or upstairs because we'd still be moving.
Yep.
Uh, and you'd go in his kitchen and you'd open up cabinets where there's soup normally, there's records. You go in his bathroom where you put your toothbrushes, there was records. But they weren't all over on the floor everywhere. Anyway, he said, Chad, I want this amount of money, which was about a nickel on the dollar. Okay. I'm like, Brad, I'm going to give you what you asked plus 5,000, which was really 10 more thousand than I had to give him because he said, look, I'm going to ask this, but I know you ain't going to give it to me.
Sure.
So I gave him what he asked and I gave him 5,000 and I looked at him, I says, because and we still haven't put up the equipment I bought from him for sale, but he had 50 turntables, 50 amps, 50 pairs of speakers. It was 7 budget trucks full of
Wow.
equipment from Sherman, Texas. Well, I still have it. The reason I'm telling you, he had like 10, 15 consoles.
No way.
And what he would do is he had these Polish guys that would rebuild his tubes. Like he would buy them and spend 2 or 3, 4 grand redoing them. And then redo them and just throw them in the corner of his house.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Not even listen to them.
Yeah.
But he would redo them to all new tubes, everything to like spend whatever it costs. But I just couldn't take them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we had 7 budget trucks full.
Wow.
How, I'd have been greedy at that point,
Mm-hmm.
but you'd look at them and they were all, I mean, it
Beautiful
was
pieces.
crazy.
Wow.
Oh, beautiful. All redone.
Wow.
And
And you look at
we had
Bluetooth speakers today, size of your hand, people listening on
man.
that,
Yeah, it was hard leaving those, man.
Wow.
But it was hard leaving those.
Wow. I bet.
I like those. They weren't like the one my parents had. It was the more of the but this guy, so anyway, I said, hey Brad, here I'm giving you more. But when you're ready for the equipment, call me. He said, you want my equipment? He said, listen, man, I can't. I said, no, Brad. I said, calm down, because boy, he didn't want to.
Yeah.
Man, he loved his equipment. I said, no, Brad, I'm not. No big deal. I said, if you're gonna sell, call me first.
Yep.
Well, I tell you what, Kassem, you're going to have to get an SBA to buy this. I said, what in the hell's an SBA? His family is in the banking business. I said, what's the SBA? He goes, you don't know what an SBA is? I said, no. He said, that's cool that you don't. I said, well, what is it? He said, it's a small business loan or SBL,
Small Business Administration loan.
something like it. Maybe
Yeah, yeah.
SBL, maybe SBL. I said, Brad, I don't need to make no. So we laughed. And then 14 months later, he died. And then his family called me.
Mm-hmm.
And we get down there. And I mean, listen, it was, it's $500,000 of equipment, maybe. Seriously.
Sure.
But you might say, if somebody give you $500,000 of equipment, you'd say, you're going to take it and you cut a fat hog, you're clapping up and down. No, man. The amount of work, because some of it was B stocks.
Sure.
And some of these, our competitors, Brad is such a nice guy that we never did that to him. Like, hey, Brad, you need to buy. Dude, we knew he had more than he could live. We're not going to try to.
Absolutely.
But our competitors sure didn't matter. All the boxes were from, and they would send him stuff, B stock. No padding, just broken,
Ooh, ouch.
Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, even though, we paid the family what they asked, but it's still the work involved. Now, if you just kept it for yourself and you had time and you didn't have a job and you could put one Macintosh online, or, you have to make sure it works. And do you have the boxes, the remotes, the owner's manual? If I had to do it again, I'd probably pass on it, even though I got that much equipment for almost nothing.
Yeah. It's a lot of
I
work.
can almost blame losing an employee over it, because it stressed us out so much trying to work with that at the same. That's not our business. Our business is selling new stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, I'd have people, like, I'd be talking to you and I'd tell you and you'd say, oh, I have a second house, or I want to put a system in another bedroom. I'd say, well, what do you want to spend? 15 grand? And then, man, for 15, I was putting together, I did about 5 systems for friends and people. He had nice stuff, but it was, so I guess that's a long story about consoles, but
I love it.
you reminded me about the consoles. And so, yeah, my system was in my bedroom. My father had a black clothing store. It was called Threads Incorporated. We sold to, it was during Superfly and Shaft, Curtis Mayfield, and all of these people would play in Louisiana. My dad would get tickets because, he would do a lot of advertising and commercials around the concert. A lot of these artists, like the OJs, would shop at my dad's store. He had one in New Orleans. He had one in Lafayette. And so that's where I learned a lot about R&B and soul, because, we had 8-track tapes and went to all the, B.B. King, OJs, Curtis Mayfield. I think Sly and the Family Stone. I can't believe I can't remember, but on the other hand, I can believe I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah. So what was your first album you purchased? Do you remember?
Oh, shoot. No. I can remember. Oh, when I was real young, I had 7-inch records like, Guess Who, American Woman.
Yeah, yeah.
Jerry Reed, Amos Moses, Allman Brothers, Ramblin' Man, the Stones, Angie,
yeah, yeah. All fantastic stuff.
Just the 7 inches. I remember buying those and having those. Like the great Guess Who, American Woman, at the end, it goes, goodbye, American Woman, goodbye, American. And it says chick, but, we were 8 or 9 years old. He's saying shit. Goodbye, American shit. You know what I mean? And listen again, because it's at the lead out. Listen, goodbye, American. And we just, so I remember my 7 inches as being my, those would be considered my first records. when you asked me that, I was thinking about albums, and I can't.
Sure.
I mean, we listen to a lot of the radio, you know,
Yeah.
and I mean, I can remember my first concert.
What was that?
It was Humble Pie and Wet Willie in New Orleans. I was about 10 or 11 years old, and one of my relatives brought me and turned me on to mescaline. We went to that.
Wow.
I mean, 10 or no, but no, it was probably 11, between 11 and 13, something like that. And we get to the concert, we pull out a briefcase. All right, who wants coke? Who wants acid? Who wants mescaline? Who wants Quaaludes?
Wow.
It wasn't
A different time.
it would be like everybody, oh, I'll take the mescaline. And so that's, you know, I could have resentments about that, but that same person is the one that introduced me to music the mostly.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, it's a big trade-off, but I made a career out of the music, and I have to, you know, acknowledge that. So
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
it's kind of crazy looking back, but I mean, it's the truth, and you don't have to edit any of it, but I don't really care. You know, I
Wow.
don't care. It's what
Fascinating.
happened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember Joe Walsh and Focus when they had the song Hocus
Hocus
Pocus.
Pocus by Focus. Yes.
Yeah, the Focus and Joe Walsh came out with Rocky Mountain Way.
Oh.
Focus, I saw them, and oh man, they had a place called the Warehouse in New Orleans, and they had concerts, man.
Hmm.
Allman Brothers always playing. You know, Johnny Winter, Dr. John, you know, Chicago, Joe Cocker. I mean, we just had concerts. Remember when the Superdome first opened, they had Allman Brothers. It's when he was going out with Cher, Allman Brothers, Charlie Daniels, Wet Willie, and Marshall Tucker.
Wow.
It's called The South's Gonna Do It Again or something like that. I mean, dude, it was good. It was like 1975. He drove up a limo on the stage. You know, I mean, the Superdome.
No way.
Yeah, and I met him later, and I talked to him about it. And I also know Jimmy Hall from Wet Willie. You know, the song "Keep On Smiling."
Oh yeah.
That was like his parents didn't really realize what a good band Wet Willie was and how famous they was, because he's from Mobile, Alabama. It's close to New Orleans, so he invited his parents to the Superdome. Right?
Yep.
You know, I mean, the Superdome. There was nothing like it. In fact, it's the only one that outlasted all the other domes that they tried to. And, you know, to invite his parents to that with the Allman Brothers and see him playing, that's when his family finally realized, well, you know, maybe this is a career. I love Wet Willie. I mean, but Jimmy Hall. So I seen Leonard Skinner, Wet Willie, and Foghat. And Leonard Skinner only had their first album.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Nobody even knew who they were. They were the opening band.
Wow.
They
That's
were the
amazing.
opening band. Yeah. And it was $6. There was people sitting on the stage. Like, I mean, they let people just sit, you know, like around.
Sure. It was a different time.
Oh man, dude.
Wow.
I just wish I miss all that, man.
Yeah.
I miss all that a lot.
That's amazing.
There was concerts. Then they had one that was 80,000 people at Tulane Stadium. It was Jay Giles, which was a great live band, Leonard Skinner and ZZ Top for the Texas Worldwide Tour. And I've talked to Billy Gibbons about it. And in fact, they have a documentary on like their 50th year, and they talk about that Texas Worldwide Tour where they had a buffalo on the stage with a hawk or an eagle or something. But Skinner canceled. The other two concerts in the Superdome were the largest indoor events ever in the world. It was the Stones for Some Girls. There was 90,000 people, largest indoor event. Then they came back for Tattoo You, and they topped it again. And I don't know if that record's ever been topped, that many people under a roof.
Wow.
So I saw the Stones, let's see, Black and Blue in Baton Rouge. I saw the Stones, Some Girls Tattoo You in the Superdome. And then when I saw Zeppelin twice in Baton Rouge, I think one of them might have been House of the Holy and Physical Graffiti. And I found there's a bootleg on the web of that concert. And it's a board recording.
Wow.
That recording bootleg sounds better than that Celebration Day thing they just did. You know what I mean? Is that
I get
crazy?
it. I get it. I totally get
It's
it.
2010 with all the engineers. Zeppelin's coming back for the first time in years. And you're going to mess that up?
Yep.
How can you do that? How can you?
Newer is not better.
How can a bootleg from 1978 or 77 from probably a cassette smoke it?
Wow.
It's called the Rampage and Cage, and it's very hard to find. Of course, I can't remember the concert. I remember getting there. I hitchhiked at 16 with a bootleg ticket. This is before they had raised lettering on the. This is when Xerox machines just first came out. We made a Xerox, and we had to, because it was sold out, we had to take a Sharpie and highlight because it was so light, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't lazy. And we took a chance at 16 years old to hitchhike. It's a whole long story, but I can't remember the concert. But now that I got the CD of it, John Paul Jones does a 25-minute song on No Quarter.
Wow.
On the roads. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Where just riffing, it's like jazz. He just goes into never. I mean, it's
Stunning.
Yeah, but again, I can't say I remember. But I'm glad I got the CD because Robert Plant, I was talking about Warren Storm. Robert Plant worships Warren Storm. And they played together and recorded some stuff together. And Robert Plant went to Warren Storm's house. And Warren Storm, Robert Plant, is probably a small apartment. Robert Plant walked in, got on his knees, and he kissed Warren Storm's wife's hand. He goes, "Oh, it's a pleasure meeting you." She said, "It's real nice meeting you too, but I never heard of Fred Zeppelin."
Oh, that's so good. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So in 1986, you're living in Salina, Kansas. You decide to start Acoustic Sounds.
Yeah.
Can you describe why you started the business and what you were thinking? Like, oh, I think I'm just going to do this out of a room in my apartment.
I was I got here in 1984. Year CDs coming out, and I started to rebuild my collection. Just trying to, replace my scratched albums, and I kept, replacing. I wasn't making that much money, so I wasn't replacing that many albums. But it was kind of like was something that, music in my album collection was kind of already me. You know what I mean? Like it's my hobby. So I went home to Louisiana, and I had a lot of what you'd call audiophile friends. Now, we were mostly in the mid-5. We really didn't know that they had a next level. And the next level was really just starting. I mean, in the early 80s, you had Conrad Johnson, you had Audio Research, you had Wilson. But, and a lot of people at the time kind of were down on the Japanese electronics. And now, I like them both, and they're different. And I can see why the American stuff is great and everybody wanted, but that Japanese stuff didn't suck either. But anyway, so I went home, and my friend, who I was a little bit above him on the level of knowing about like mid to high end, he surpassed me. His name is Chet Nixon. And Chet, they had this store in Lafayette called Three Phase Audio. And Three Phase Audio, Lafayette is like a little Houston. It's an oil. Has a lot of oil companies, people earn money in the oil field there. And when it's good, there's a lot of money being made, depending on, maybe who's in office or whatever's going on in the oil.
Yeah, the price of oil or whatever.
Right, the price of oil, the price of oil. At the time, Lafayette was on fire. It was like they did articles like every 1 in 15 was a millionaire. It was big. So they had this store called Three Phase Audio, and it was in a house. man, these guys had, I mean, it probably rival any store in New York or LA or any, I mean, it was just crazy. And so I guess my friend Chet went there and he learned about, Clear Audio and Mission and, Mordaunt Schwartz and, the British stuff, all the good stuff, just the best.
Yeah.
So I came home. I didn't really know about it. I ain't going to lie. I mean, I came home and he started showing me this stuff. And I'm like, damn, man, this is cool, This was probably 1985. So he says, well, let me show you these albums. And he started pulling out some Mobile Fidelity and some Nautilus. I said, well, I have some of those. I said, I got the Nautilus Doobie Brothers. I got the Super Disc Jean-Luc Ponty. I've got the Mobile Fidelity Jerry Rafferty City to City. I only bought those because I couldn't find the regular album. They let regular albums go out of print back then before CDs. Like, they wouldn't keep them all in stock. They weren't always all in stock.
Yeah.
The Warner Brothers might do their top 100 album. Okay, we're going to do another pressing, another a series of 100 of our top artists. And they'd pick the 100 and they'd press the records and they'd, it might only be one Zeppelin album at a time that would come back in print. So anyway, sometimes I couldn't find the albums I mentioned. So the only way, there was the audiophile version. Well, on those records, they had stickers. The sound will blow you away. Hear the difference. And those hype stickers, I took them too literal. I was expecting to put on the Doobie Brothers and, what is it, Tom Johnson had come out and slap me about the face, like,
Yep.
I was expecting the band to jump out and sing to you. I was expecting to be blown away because if you read the sticker, so I told him, I says, hey, man, I says, I bought some of them things, man. I don't hear any difference than my regular. He says, okay, calm down, sit in the middle. Why you want me to sit in the middle? Chad, give me 5 minutes. Okay, I'm sitting in the middle. Why? Well, just sit in the middle. Okay. Okay, you're going to have to quit talking now, Chad. I know it's going to be hard. But one song. Now, you got to listen. It's subtle. The differences is subtle. But a subtle difference is a big difference. Now, notice how quiet the vinyl is. You're not going to hear any ticks and pops or any surface noise. When I drop the needle, it's going to sound like there's no record playing, And just listen to the whole song. Don't talk. I said, all right. I said, all right, Chet. I'll give you one, I'm going to do it. And he goes, don't have this expectation, man. It's just listen for the differences I'm telling you, and you'll start to appreciate it. So he put it down. By the end of the song, I'm like, all right, I got it. I come back to then he starts showing me this one's going for $100. This one's going for $200. This one's going for $50. This is like in 1985. So I'm making minimum wage as a cook. So I come back to Salina. We have a great record store here. They had a buttload, okay, which is a small amount more than a shitload, okay?
Yep.
Of these records. All the ones that were out of print that he couldn't find. I mean, like 250 Mobile Fidelities.
Wow.
Maybe 25 UHQR, Sergeant Pepper, Dark, all the rare ones. So I called Chet. I said, hey, man, I said, this is the beginning. This is it.
Yep.
The light bulb moment is when he played me that album and I heard the difference. And then I understood how to appreciate the difference, and I wasn't looking for a huge. That was the light bulb moment. The next light bulb is when I found that mother load and I called him. So I let him buy anything he wanted. I wasn't like, these are mine and I'm going to sell you and make a profit. I was like, whatever you want. And I let him cherry pick it and I bought the rest. And And then I'll put a little bitty ad in the back of Audio Magazine, probably 1986, 85. And there's a couple other moments. I started just looking for these albums. Like I just went crazy. I'd drive to Kansas City. I'd go to every music land, every record store. I'd buy them. Spent every hour looking for them. Went to every record store when I was in Louisiana or Denver or whatever, just looking, buying. Duplicates, triplicates, buy, sell, trade. So one day they used to have cutout bins at Kmart, things like this. And there was a cutout bin, and I was buying other records too. And they had a cutout bin at Kmart, and they had a lot of records. I'd buy what I want. And every now and then you'd find a cutout of a Mobile Fidelity, Rod Stewart or Pablo Cruz or something for $2. And so I'd buy them. I said, where are y'all getting these? They said, I don't know. There's a jobber or a rack jobber comes in on Tuesday at 2:00. And he just checks what was sold and then he refills it. I said, okay. So I went there and I waited. And the guy walked in. I said, hey, man, where are you getting these records? Because there's these certain kind that every time you fill this up, there's 2 or 3 of these. But I want all of these. And I showed him to, he goes, well, I get it from Great, Atlantic, and Pacific in St. Louis. So, he gives me the number. I call the place. I says, listen, I'm looking for these records. And it was like a secretary. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And we talked, and I kept trying to explain to her, and she just didn't know what I was talking about. And I talked to her long enough that I guess a man was walking by, one of the bosses, said, well, who is that? And he picks up the phone. Hello. I said, hey, listen, I'm looking for these original master recordings. He said, well, we have hundreds of them, different titles, hundreds of them. I'll send you a catalog. So I get the catalog. He's got 100. They're from 50 cents to $5. I mean, there's Aqualung, Zeppelin, Steve Miller, Gordon Lightfoot. I mean, good ones, medium ones, bad ones. Ricky Lee Jones,
wow.
Eagles, Hotel California, maybe $5. And so what I did is I took the catalog and I Xeroxed the catalog, and I either typed it or Xeroxed it and whited out their prices. And I said, pick any 10 for $100, postage included. Pick any 10 on this list of about 100 or maybe 50, 60 something lots. Pick any 10 for $100, shipping included. Now, when I would run out of one or run low on one, or one was like Aqualung or Hotel California, sometimes I'd make that count as 2 picks.
Yep.
Like that one counts as, that's a double. It counts as 2 picks. That one I barely had. And then I put the little ad in the back of Audio Magazine, and like they say, the rest is history. That's just the beginning. And I started getting money orders from all over the world, and I was working at Philips Lighting, North American Philips at the time. That they're the ones that kind of interesting that they're the ones that co-invented the CD, and I'm working for them. It's a light bulb factory, and it's mindless work. You know what I mean? You just watch light bulbs roll. And in fact, I was working for Manpower. The people that worked there, they only hired relatives. So I was Manpower, and all I would do all day was think about the ads and what I was going to do. So we'd make these catalogs, and we still got some of them, where pick any 10 for 100. And basically, the one thing about the schedule of North American Philips, you'd work 3 days, 12 hours a day, 1 week. So you had 4 days off. The next week you worked 4 days, 12 hours a day. You had 3 days off. So out of 14 days, you had 7 days off. I didn't want to be lazy. And so I was making more money selling records than I was there. But I thought, well, hey, I got 7 days off. I'm able to do it. So I don't want to quit my job. Well, they would lay you off. Like if the wind blew, hey, we're laying you off. They were busy. Hey, can you get in here right away?
Yeah.
And so finally they kept doing that. Now I realized I'm making about 3 or 4 times the money selling records. And I'm like, that job's starting to cost me money, you know? So,
Yep.
but I didn't want to quit it because I thought that I'd be being lazy, you know, and I didn't want to be. I didn't think I was, but I was scared that because it's actually, you know, kind of being lazy. I was getting tired of that light bulb rolling shit, you know? And so they called me to come back, and I'm not real religious or over religious. I didn't know what to do. I prayed that night. I says, you know, like, give me an answer what to do. So I never called them, and I never thought about it till about 5-10 years later. I said, you know what? I must have got my answer. You know, I got my answer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, so
Wow. And that was
yeah,
1986?
maybe, yeah, probably. So I had an apartment. It was 275 bills paid. It was 2.5 bedrooms. I mean, one of the bedrooms more like a half of a bed. Yeah, it's 2.5 bedrooms. Bills paid 275. So
Wow.
I bought our first computer at 286. I'd stay up all night, man. I'd talk to people all over the world all night. I mean, in my underwear, just boxing records. Go down to UPS, you know, drive it to UPS and fill it out by hand. And
Yep.
pretty soon, that whole apartment, you couldn't move. It was full. So then I bought a ranch style house.
Was it just you, or did you have other people working for you?
I had other people working for me. So we ended up like 10 people working out of the basement. I mean, we were grossing 100 grand out of a bedroom in 88, 100 grand a month in 88 out of, and we thought I was saving money because you're doing it at your house, you're not paying rent. But actually, it's inefficient
Yeah.
when you get records in, you bring them in the basement, you box them in the basement, you bring them out. It's just soon go pay rent and have a proper place, you know. But I had to learn
Yep.
all these things the hard way or the long way, and uh, pretty much the city when the 18 wheelers started delivering pallets is when the city had enough. My neighbors had enough of that shit.
Wow. So that was probably around 1991 or so. You guys, right? You moved into a 3,500 square foot facility?
Yeah, it was at least that. Yeah, yeah, it was 91. It's exactly when damn boy.
I do my homework.
Well, yeah, you do. You definitely do. I mean, the only reason I would never remember those years other than I've thought about it so many. You know, I had to. So that we stayed there from 91 to 94.
Yeah. 91 is also, I believe, when you launched Analog Productions reissues label. No?
No, that would be. Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Or right around there?
But right, it was the first record. Yeah, dude, I was wrong. You're more right. The first record I ever reissued was Massenet Le Cid, but I didn't do it under my label name. It was a guy I was dealing with reissued that record himself, and I loved the record. And he's like, well, listen, without, instead of you going to the company and going through all that, I'll just make some for you to your specifications. I'll make them for you the way you want them made, and I'll just sell you a finished good. So it was a Clavier label. His name was Harold Powell. And I have to give Harold a lot of credit for educating me. I have to give, like I said, Chet credit for playing me that record, Chet Nixon, who's passed away. I'm sure Harold Powell passed away because he was like 70, 80 at the time. He taught me a lot. He did the Massenet Le Cid in 89. And then in 90 or 91, we did the Virgil Thompson, Plow That Broke the Plane. In 92, we did Way Out West. So those were big steps. And then we moved 91 to 94. And then the landlord rented the place out from under me, which is another learning lesson because you don't really understand you think as a tenant, if you pay your rent comes due on the 1st and you pay the 1st, you think that's good, like, and that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Who would think that you would ever, so when the lease came up, I didn't, it was the first time I ever had a lease, and I just kept paying month by month. I didn't realize, and well, it had a dance floor. Okay. Now, the dance studios in town knew that place had,
Oh, sure.
yeah, they're expensive, to build a dance
Yep.
floor, a proper dance floor. And so he rented it out from under me. Anyway, I learned a lot because I ain't rented it since. I
Yep.
went and bought a building. Ain't homie, don't play that no more.
Yeah. I get it. I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
Wow.
And so I bought, and then we were there from 94 to 2004. That's where our print shop is now. So from 94 to 2004, we were in
The old grocery store, right?
probably 10,000 square.
Was it an old grocery store? Or?
No, that was next.
Oh.
So the old grocery store was from 2004 to 2010. That was an 18,000 square feet grocery store. Then 2010, we bought the warehouse and then the building, the pressing plant, and we started the pressing plant and the warehouse in 2010, and that's where we at now.
Wow. Yeah, you kicked it into high gear then. Definitely.
Yeah, that was There was also other things in there where we started our own recording label in 1994 when we recorded Jimmy Rogers' Bluebird in 1994.
So is that Analog Productions Originals?
Yeah, in 1994, Bluebird. Then in 1997, I bought the church. 1998, that's when we started the Blues Masters. So, I mean, think about it. In 1990 or so, we do our first reissue. 94, our first recording. 96 or 7, we buy the church, make a studio. 98, we have a blues concert. I mean, that's a lot in 8 years.
Absolutely it is. Yes. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I hear this story and I absolutely love it. You're going after it and doing what you love and making it happen.
Well, it was just the next natural step. Everything is the next natural step. Everything is the next natural step. And it's just, now we do everything from the microphone to the mastering, to the plating, to the pressing, to the labels, to the inserts, to the selling.
Everything except the jacket.
Except the jackets.
Wow.
I got to go to sleep sometime at night.
I hear you. Can you talk a little bit about Blue Heaven Studios, the old Gothic church that you bought? It's a cool place.
Yeah, it's it, man. I mean, I got lucky,
Didn't you originally plan to use it for storage? And then
Boy,
thought,
you
whoa, this place sounds good. That wraps part 1 of my interview with Acoustic Sounds founder and CEO, Chad Kassem. In part 2, Chad and I dig deeper into Acoustic Sounds, and he provides what is easily the most thorough answers to the 10 bonus questions of anyone I've ever interviewed. I look forward to seeing everybody over at audiophilestyle.com for news, reviews, and the best community in high-end audio. Until next time, see ya.